And welcome, everybody. I am Bonnie Bruder, and you are watching the AskBonBon Show, real conversations about what matters most, where we bring you the people and the tools to create yourself. So today we're talking about a very important topic, and that is security. I'm sure if you've watched the news in the last few weeks, there are security breaches everywhere. And I myself had something happen to me where, while on a plane, somebody had accessed my credit card numbers to PayPal and charged up some charges. And so it really made me realize how important this topic is. And so today we have an expert. He has a company that is top-notch as far as security, as well as a very impressive background. And so I would like to introduce all of the viewers to Scott Patterson, co-founder of the Knox Corp. Scott, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So how did we get here? How are there all of a sudden all of these security breaches?
You know, that's a good question. When you think about it, back in the Roman days or back in the early 1900s, technology wasn't prevalent or it didn't exist at all. So how did one person find out information about another person? They had to do things like collusion or social engineering and so forth. So as humans, we adapted and we evolved, right? So then we started making technology available to make data more available for the business. So now we've moved data from a physical format that used to be stored in a company's organization. Now it's on servers, it's in the cloud, it's everywhere else. And the world adopted to this technology very, very, very fast. And the technology is here. And now we're realizing that we never implemented any security with the technology. We just adopted to it, and there's no security, and the security is playing a catch up. So if you're a hacker and these days or a nefarious individual, you're going to have a free lunch for a very long time because the security is trying to catch up with the technology.
That makes a lot of sense. And you have a very impressive background. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about your background?
Yeah, no problem. So I'm originally from New York, and then I went into the Air Force, and at the age of 18, and it was a great experience. That's where I learned information security. I'm not sure if you've been to an Air Force base, but we have a multitude of industries ranging from financial services, healthcare, e-commerce. We have malls, hotels, you name it. And I worked in a particular unit that secured all of those assets for the base.
Wow, fantastic. Well, as you know, we spoke on the phone, obviously, prior to the interview, and my brother is a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, so I was really excited to know that you have that background. And so how did you make the transition from working, doing security in the Air Force into what you're doing today?
That's a great question. So probably at about 7.5, 8 years, I decided that I wanted to propel my career and move into corporate America. However, I loved the Air Force and I loved what I was doing, so I wanted to stay in that as well. So after being commissioned and becoming a captain, I went into the reserve, and then I went to work for corporate America. So I worked for Chubb & Son, AT&T, and that propelled me to being the business owner that I am now, because I realized that, I can secure one company and I can secure that one company great, but what about the rest of the companies that are out there that really need us?
Right. And so what type of companies do you work with?
I work with a range of companies: financial services, healthcare, e-commerce, obviously government entities. So it doesn't matter what the client is. We can definitely fulfill that need in any industry, matching to any regulatory requirement.
Okay. And what are some of the things that people can do, to protect themselves these days?
From a U.S. citizen perspective and a non-corporate perspective, some of the things that they can do is be proactive. Have your own identity management out there on yourself. Have your own credit report on all the bureaus yourself, and stay active with this information. Don't share your information with anyone. Shred your information regularly. If you have an older shredder, the older shredders shred north and south. So you need a newer shredder that shreds north, south, east, west, horizontal, etc., to ensure that your data is secure. Now, if you have a mobile phone, you want to secure your mobile phone with a password, a long password. One thing that most Americans are hit with and they're plagued with, and this is prevalent and ubiquitous everywhere, is that individuals don't they use the same password amongst multiple accounts. So if you have 4 or 5 bank accounts, they'll use the same password on those bank accounts, the same password they'll use for their work account, and so forth. So it's easy for a nefarious individual to hack your entire life if they get one password. So those are some of the things that they should do from a personal standpoint. From a corporate standpoint, I think corporate America is doing some of the things that they need to do, but they have a lot more to go, because there's still a lot of older traditional folks in these organizations that have those traditional ways that try to merge technology and information security, where there's a huge divergence between the two. So they should obviously be separated and handled in separate initiatives. So those are some of the things from a corporate and from a personal standpoint.
Interesting. And you must have some really great stories of companies you've been able to help. Are you able to share any of those?
No, unfortunately.
I knew you were going to say that. Well, what is your kind of dream? We always ask people, because we're a very visionary show and we're all about living your vision. What are some projects that you would like to work on, or where you feel you can really make a big difference and offer your expertise?
This is it. Doing exactly what I'm doing now. I can work anywhere individually, but I choose to do this, and I choose to work with different organizations, and each organization has their own challenge, and I want to secure them, and I want them to be successful. Because the customers are doing their part. The customers are taking part in the company's business or service, et cetera, and they're entrusting that the company is taking care of their personal data. And oftentimes what I find out is that they don't know. And I want to raise awareness, for one, and two, I want to make sure that, obviously the company stays in business, and so that, the consumers and the U.S. citizens, they'll be able to continue to enjoy what America has to offer, which is great products, great services.
Now, one thing that I find interesting, I know myself, my own experience, is that before I had something happen, I didn't realize the value of having security. So every time I go to my brother's house, who again has the military background, he's like, you need to change your passwords and you need to do this and don't log on Starbucks. He's like always telling me. I'm like, yeah. But then when it actually happens to you, you realize, how, number one, how violating it is, but then number two, how easy it is for some. I have no idea. I was on a plane sometime at some point and someone replicated a card, and then, months later I got charges on that. So I imagine it's a bit of a challenge to communicate to companies that haven't yet had a breach or haven't yet had something happen to them. How do you kind of get in there and explain your services so that people understand how important this is?
Well, basically what I do is every company falls into some sort of regulatory body. And even if they don't fall into a regulatory body, the United States data privacy regulates that they must protect the personal identifiable information of U.S. citizens. So if they don't fall into like a healthcare space or credit card space or so forth, they definitely fall into the U.S. Data protection. And I make them aware of their fiduciary responsibility, that while you may not have healthcare information or while you may not have credit card information, you do have people who help you achieve your operational objectives. And what information do you grab from these people? You grab their first name, their last name, the social security number, the bank account information for direct deposit, et cetera. You have enough information to recreate that person somewhere else. So now if you look at a healthcare entity or any other entity that accepts any form of payment, pretty much 90% of the world accepts credit cards, right?
Yes.
And then they have applications, they have mobile apps, et cetera, and they expect the consumer to save their information on their platform. So now they have even more information, people that help them achieve their operational objectives, and also their customers' information as well. So once I explain that to an organization and how they can be fined into the Stone Ages by not complying, then they realize that, wow, this is something that I must take seriously. But keep in mind, as I said before, back in the 1900s, and technology didn't exist and it wasn't prevalent. So now it's a slow turn, it's a slow learn for them. But they're learning because lots of their partners and their friends and associates, et cetera, are experiencing issues. It's on the news, the White House, IRS, et cetera. The Polish Airlines was most recently breached. So these types of issues are definitely hitting home for organizations.
Yes. Well, great. Well, I could talk about this subject all day. I'm a huge security fan now. So,
Yes, thank you.
But obviously we're limited on time. So how can people, if they're watching and they're interested in getting in touch with you or utilizing your services, how can they find you?
You can find us on theknoxcorps.com. That's TheKnoxcorps.com. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. And LinkedIn as well. So what they can do is they can subscribe. They can send us an email to projects@theknoxcorps.com, and then we'll begin the journey with them, because it is a journey that we must take together. You know,
Yes.
myself and the entity, and we march down that journey together in order to protect their assets and their customers' assets as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for this very important work that you do.
Oh, thank you. It's very rewarding.
Great. I imagine it would be.
Yes.
Good. And we will be right back with another incredible guest.